Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rant of Troy Radio. This is the Carcast after USC's 45-31 win over the Michigan State Spartans at the Coliseum. It took forever. It was a 4-hour affair. But here we are. This is our earliest Carcast of the year. Well, I guess technically it is 12:10 a.m. Pacific time, but also our earliest Carcast of the year in the sense of, like, we're rolling right after the game. We're 10 minutes after the game is concluded. So we're going to give you our thoughts. Welcome to everybody joining us live. We appreciate you guys. You just did watch along. Alicia had a grand old time over there. We hope you did too, but a lot of stuff to get to in this game. USC wins again 45-31. As always, follow us on social media at Rant of Troy. Email us, rantoftroy@fanside.com. And our phone number, 818-643-7227. Second Whisper and Show. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, journalist with my co-host here in the Rant of Troy studio in Los Angeles, Alicia Artola.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, we made it. Still got a Carcast to get through. Yeah, take it away. Go into your classic Carcast monologue, will you?
Okay, my classic Carcast monologue is that it is very late. I am very tired, and USC did their best to do what USC does best, which is to say, look just good enough to give you hope and just bad enough to remind you why you shouldn't hope. It's such a weird performance. This felt like the most complete offensive performance that USC has had since Caleb Williams was running the show, probably. The run game was outstanding. The quarterback was outstanding. Mekhi Lemon was outstanding. All of the peripheral players, Walker Lyons, Lake McCree, Tino Kynes, I just thought everybody was on top of it offensively. They had the fourth down that they didn't convert, and they had the fumble, which was a backup wide receiver who fumbles the ball, and it's clearly a mistake, but USC doesn't punt in this game until the very end, and it's just like a last in the final seconds of just like, okay, here's the ball back. So it's weird to come out of a game that the offense was so just solid and mostly non-dramatic, and feel like something about this game just wasn't super satisfying, and it all comes down to the offense, to the defense. This offense, I think, is clearly better than they were last year, clearly capable of winning games for USC. It just feels like the defense continues to be an albatross hanging from USC's neck, and it wasn't supposed to be. It was not supposed to be an issue where USC comes in to week 4 and we're still talking about the defense being shaky. And it's busted coverages again. It's a complete lack of discipline on a drive that was more or less handed to Michigan State via penalties from start to finish. And it's very frustrating because the defense has their moments. I mean, this pass rush is really ferocious. It feels like the front seven is doing a good job on that front. There's so much to like about so many of these players, and then they just go and have that drive like they did in the third quarter. And it follows one of the best drives that they'd had in the game, coming straight out of halftime, and get a quick 3 and out, just like overwhelm Michigan State and do exactly what they need to do. And then just for seemingly no reason other than they lost their minds for a good 15 minutes there, they just opened the door for Michigan State to make it interesting. And I think the concern here is that this should not have been a close game. This should never have been a game in the second half that Michigan State was within one score of USC. And like, I get, Big Mike in the chat is saying, relax, it was one bad quarter. Yeah, it was one bad quarter. And that was enough to put USC in danger of potentially losing a game that they absolutely dominated. That's a concern. There's just something about this team that feels like they're on the cusp, but it very much feels like there's still going to be this thing that's holding them back. William in the chat, makes a good point. Find the positive here. Last year they would have found a way to lose. Yes, and that is the big difference between this team and last year's team. We saw it against Purdue. We're seeing it now against Michigan State. This team does seem to know how to finish, and a lot of it has to do with the quarterback. A lot of it has to do with the offense. Michigan State pulls within a touchdown, and Maiava goes out and leads a perfect drive to go out and kill some clock and score a touchdown, and he makes a couple pretty incredible plays that put USC back into the right space, and ultimately USC wins the game comfortably, even if Michigan gets the backdoor cover. So there is definitely progress being made, and I think that Jade Maiava is proving one of the theories that I had coming out of last season, which was that it wasn't a coincidence that USC was 3-1 with him at quarterback when they had struggled to finish so many of the games before he came in as quarterback. That it was something about just he seems to have a better handle on how not to lose the composure in that fourth quarter, on top of just being a significantly more reliable quarter across the board from start to finish. He has a better sense of leading the offense at the end of a game when you need to put the game away. That is a huge difference. The concern here is that when you're putting the game away against Michigan State like this, you can do so because your offense was absolutely destroying them the entire way. My concern is what happens when you're playing a better defense that doesn't let you run for 283 yards and 7.6 yards per pop. What if you are playing a defense that does have more of a pass rush, that is making the quarterback feel much more distressed in terms of getting after him and putting him under pressure and forcing him to make very quick decisions? Those things are still a worry here. So I'm sort of torn between, there's, a win is a win. USC gets the win, has some players really step up, puts on a statistical show on offense. And on defense, they give up some big plays, but still have their moments and sort of just let it be a win is a win and move on to the next week. I'm torn between just sort of like approaching it like that and approaching it like the recipe for future losses exists within this game.
Yes, but not a recipe for a loss today.
Yes.
Because they didn't lose it. I think that I have two thoughts here. One of them is remember the 2022 Stanford game? A game in which SC dominated, but there was some weird stuff. There was some weird little turnover stuff. Things got a little funky. Stanford, I think, gained a bunch of yards, but it was never in doubt. And SC won it, and then we got on the Carcast and we said, wow, this is one of those games where the only reason that we were doubting things is because the PTSD of the Clay Helton era, when in reality they just looked comfortable even when it was getting murky, and they sailed through and they won the game, and they won it by 2 touchdowns. I think it was 41-28. Very similar score to this. I think this was very similar in the sense that there's 3 different takeaways you can have from this game. Number one, this was the most, in terms of the good parts of this game, this was the best SC has looked in terms of absolute dominance in the, 52 minutes they dominated this game. Mm-hmm. It was the best that they had looked, I think, in a Big Ten game. And it should have been, given the time, given the injuries that Michigan State had on offense coming into it, even though most of those guys played. On defense, when they had those crazy injuries right before the half that was absolutely awful, a targeting play, and Michigan State loses their two best players on defense. And SC made them pay on offense with the exception of two drives. But like when SC was working, everything looked flawless and perfect. It was the most dominant game in the sense of like, as a Big Ten team against the Big Ten team. You can go back and look at the Wisconsin game last year, but they were losing that game in the first half, and they had to come back and then turn it around and then dominate the second half, right? That's one way of looking at it. The other way to look at it is, but the third quarter, those penalties, all the penalties back to back, that were all, it was all self-inflicted. And you can't sit here and blame the refs. They didn't put 12 guys on the field. They didn't run into the punter. They didn't put their hands high on a guy's face. Like, the only one that was a judgment call was a PI, and there was contact. So, like, if you want to say the PI was soft, I guess sure. But, like, SC put themselves, even without the PI, into all the positions to make this a game when it should not have been. This should have been 31-10 with them getting the ball, and given how they performed on offense, there was every reason to believe that they'd go up 38-10. You bring in Hassan Longstreet, you kill off the game, you kill off Michigan State's interest in the game. Maybe they're subbing in dudes at that point, and everyone goes home happy, right? But that's not what happened. Suddenly it became a 7-point game because you had all those penalties, put them all together on one drive, and you followed up immediately with the fumble to give Michigan State all the momentum. And I think the third point I have here is, as bad as that was, just like that Stanford game in 2022, they did not lose. This was the game in which they barfed on themselves for a part of it, but they did not let that completely sink their ship. Something that did not happen last year. Last year, whenever things got weird against Maryland, they didn't have the play to make at the end. When things went weird against Minnesota, they didn't have the play at the end. When things went weird against Purdue last week, they did make those plays. When things got weird, in this game, the offense bounced back with maybe the best drive of the year. 13 plays, 75 yards, 7 minutes and 20 seconds of clock at the end of the third quarter and the start of the fourth quarter. They answered the bell. And so, yes, if they perform like they did in that third quarter for those two drives, that is worrisome against the team like Michigan, at Illinois next week, which is on the road at 9 a.m., at Nebraska, which again is on the road, against Notre Dame, Oregon, so on and so forth, all that stuff. Absolutely. But I think it is a feather in your hat to see SC win despite the flubs. And it's not that my expectations are low. It's not that the bar is low. It's that this is a team that found every single possible way to lose last year and the year before. They tried so hard in that Cal game, and they still pulled it out somehow, right? And this game, they absolutely could have just, after the fumble, just hung their head and felt bad for themselves. They didn't do that. They responded with two great drives, and they made sure that the game was truly never in peril, even though it was one play away from being a tie game in the fourth quarter, right?
Yes, and realistically, based on everything else we saw from the offense, if not for that fumble, USC probably drives and scores on that drive directly after that really tough sort of defensive drive. So, I agree. Like, even though the game was a one-score game, it wasn't realistically in danger because of how because of how dominant the offense was.
Yeah.
I guess, and that, like, I think the thing that just causes people to have some pause is, you know, this was the Lincoln Riley experience, right? Like the offense being really good and carrying the team and the defense being suspect.
It's never perfectly smooth. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that this year was supposed to be the year when things balanced out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And the defense isn't really answering that call right now.
Yeah. And I think it's even more frustrating that you look in that third quarter, SC's defense, apart from the penalties, was very good at the start of that third quarter, especially. They force a 3-and-out right after the half. They get 2 third-down stops. You know, one of them was a 4th-down stop, right? They were getting off they were doing everything right, but then they were commit penalties that negated the right things that they were doing, right? And you've got to clean that up because you cannot allow, you know, this got to within 7 points, but like Jade Mayava has been very good this season. He's far outseated my expectations and where I thought he would be this season, and I'll eat all the crow in the world about that. He's been fantastic, but he's also someone who we know that has thrown a pick 6. And in a game where things got weird, you are always a pick 6 away from suddenly being tied. And against a Michigan, that is worrisome. Against a Notre Dame, especially, that's worrisome, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, yeah, I think that you gotta avoid being in that situation.
But maybe that's the difference between, you know, maybe that is ultimately the difference is. And obviously, it's simply too early to say this definitively, and USC hasn't played a good enough defense to say this definitively. But the progress that we've seen from Jaden Mayaba is such that maybe that is just the main difference between this year and last year is just that maybe we shouldn't expect Mayaba to be a pick 6 merchant. Maybe we shouldn't expect Mayaba to be the turnover machine that he was last year because he's made it through 4 games without having a turnover. Like,
yeah, and you and I were talking, or mostly you were talking on the watch along that like this is probably his best game, right? This is absolutely probably his best game. Let's get to a super chat from Night Sky that we got a little bit earlier.
Cheers.
Thanks, Night Sky. You're the best. Solid win, but my God, watching our DBs is giving me PTSD of the Alex Grinch days. Gentry healthy is lights out. Mayava Heisman front runner by Monday. If Mayava continues on the path that he is going on, he's going to force himself into that conversation.
Yes.
I'm not going to hold my breath that happens.
Well, let's talk.
SC has played 4 games. You need to see how they go throughout the season. But like he's put himself in a position production-wise to potentially be in that conversation if he stays at this pace. And yes, Gentry was incredible, especially early on in the game. And the defense, those breakdowns, brutal.
Yeah, and I think that's what is most annoying to me because I do like a lot of the players that USC has on defense, and I think USC is getting really good contributions from a lot of the players on defense. But much like the Michigan game last year, like you can play 90% really solid defense, but if the 10% that you don't play solid defense results in touchdowns every time, then your defensive efforts are going to be completely for naught. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Got another super chat. From SJ. Do you fear watching the game on a delay affects your ability to influence the game using your psychic powers? And happy birthday. That's from SJ.
Thank you, SJ.
Happy birthday.
My psychic powers.
Well, no longer. It's
no longer my birthday. Yeah. We're past it. Yeah. My psychic powers are definitely put at a disadvantage watching the game on a delay. So yes.
Yeah.
My curse of the commentator can only do so much.
Yeah, 100%.
Can I give a couple updates?
Yeah.
Well, an update. Lincoln Riley addressed the Jacoby Lane of it all. This is according to Keely Ure. Riley described the injury as something that, quote, popped up during the middle of the week. Riley essentially said that he didn't know if Lane will be available to play next week or even the next couple of weeks. So that's not good. Along with, I haven't seen an update on Elijah Page. That will be definitely something we're going to be watching this week. But it almost like this offensive performance is even more impressive given Jacoby Lane isn't on the field.
Yeah.
And Justin Taunu was forced over to the left tackle spot. Tobias Raymond slots in at right tackle. The offensive line is dealing with what was my worst nightmare, which was injuries on the offensive line, not really having a ton of depth to deal with that. And I got to say, the offensive line, I didn't notice that Elijah Page was out of the game for a couple drives. So huge credit to the offensive line for for putting in a hell of a performance, considering they lost their best offensive lineman early in that game, and sort of showing a certain amount of competency there. I think obviously the challenge gets more difficult as you start to face some better defensive fronts, but I mean, I went into this season worried that even against not good defensive fronts, that this offensive line could potentially have a lot of trouble. And I think that what we're seeing from the offensive line thus far is that they are completely functional, even while dealing with an injury or two, which is a huge, huge step in the right direction for this team and for this offensive line. So huge credit to them.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that given the way that this offense really performed, it really looked like a Caleb Williams offense back in 2022. And in a lot of ways, this feels like 2022. But it's 2025, and you can still pick Caleb Williams because I'm picking him over at Underdog Fantasy, my favorite daily fantasy app. You can go over there and make your picks. With as little as $1 and win up to 5,000 times your money. It's all about using your ball knowledge to pick whether a player will go higher or lower than the stat projections. Mix and match with different players on different teams, even different sports. But this week, sticking with the same sport on Sunday, Caleb Williams higher than in passing yards, higher than, I just had it in front of me. Where is it? 1.5 TDs, higher. And Saquon Barkley, higher than 14.5 receiving yards. That's what I got over at Underdog. Join me over there. Download the app today and sign up with promo code Rant of Troy to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5 to this promo code Rant of Troy. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog, make picks, win money. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call a 24/7 HOPE line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. Alicia, we were talking. Yeah.
Sorry, really quick. I have an Elijah Page update from Shotgun Spratling.
Go.
Riley said he didn't anticipate Elijah Page's injury being long-term.
It seems good.
Doesn't tell us a lot about the Illinois game, but at least it's not.
Yeah, well, what is long-term?
Yeah.
A big, vague statement there.
Yes.
I want to still talk about this offense because I just want to put in perspective how good the offensive performance was tonight. SC in this game had 7 tackles for loss. So if you took the over in our over-under game, that didn't work out for you. We'll talk about that more on Monday. But how many tackles for loss do you think Michigan State had in this game?
Far fewer than they should have because Wayman Jordan is a magician.
Yeah.
I'll say like 2.
0.
Well, they didn't have any sacks, so yeah.
SC had 0 negative plays. SC in this game also punted 1 time, and it was with 20 seconds left in the game. In the last 2 games, they've punted 1 time, and there's with 20 seconds in the game tonight. Field goal, touchdown, a 4th down they didn't get, in which Mekhi Lemon was tackled 6 inches short of the first. Touchdown, a fumble by DJ Jordan. Touchdown. And this is coming in a week after they scored or had at least a field goal attempt on every single drive at Purdue. So, like, the offense legitimately is the number 1 offense in the country by, like, any metric you want to look at right now. They are doing everything that you need them to do. And so, like, we talk about the defense. If the offense stays this good, you need that 24-point defense. And maybe if needing a 24-point defense versus a 20-point defense is going to be the difference in going 10-2 and, 8-4 or 10-2 and 12-0, whatever it is, the offense being this much better than I think I expected, you expected, a lot of people expected, coming off of a year in which the offense was behind the defense. It's a good place. It's a good place. And then you look at the numbers. Wayman Jordan tonight was very good. He did not feel like he had 157 yards, but he did. 18 carries, 157 yards. Eli Sanders, 13 carries, 84 yards. Trojans with 283 yards on the ground. Jaden Mayava had a beautiful game through the air, but only threw for 234. He didn't need to throw for any more than that. The offense was just about flawless, with the exception of the brutal fumble.
Yeah.
And, like, the 4th down, yes, you obviously want that back, but, like, I can live with 1 4th down stop over the course of 2 games. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and it's unfair to expect an offense to be perfect. No offense around the country is perfect on every single drive that they do. So at this point, USC's offense is operating in a clip that is just far and away elite nationally. And yes, this team has not played tough opposition yet, but a lot of teams have also not played tough opposition yet, and they aren't doing what USC is doing offensively. So I think that what we are seeing is not an illusion. I think that, can you expect Jaden Mayava to be this clean every game? No. Can you expect Wayman Jordan to have 160 yards on the ground or USC to get close to 300 yards on the ground every game? No. But I do think USC clearly has the pieces to have the formidable offense that they really should be having.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the things that I wrestle with is this concept of, where are our expectations for this USC team? Because, I've seen people in the chat talking about how, like, USC was projected to win 8 games or whatever. I myself projected this team to go 7-5. Mm-hmm. The way the offense is playing now, I think I would increase my win total there for USC. But at the same time, like, those expectations were built on disappointment from last year. They were built on what we all experienced watching this team last year. Those expectations weren't really built on, what the numbers are telling us. And going into this game, the numbers are telling us that USC is an elite team performing at an elite level.
Offense-wise.
Well, just across the, like, not just offensively, because
in terms of creating turnovers too, yeah, negative plays,
just like if you look at any of the advanced metrics, we've talked about this: FPI, FEI, SP+, all of those. USC is a top 10 team. USC is a top 10 team according to all of those metrics.
Yeah.
So, can we start judging USC on a top 10 standard? I think that's perfectly fair. You don't pay a head coach $10 million a year to not judge them on a top 10 standard. And I think that that's sort of where I come down on, I'm perfectly happy with this offense. I'm perfectly happy with the progress that we've seen from this offense. But do I see a team that is capable of matching the, 10-2 win projection that FPI currently has for USC? Defensively, I think there's so much that still needs to get worked on.
Yeah, 100%. I want to get back to that because there was a follow-up question in the chat about win-loss kind of stuff. But we got a couple super chats.
Hey.
David said, can I get a touchdown Trojans? You want live or you want this?
Touchdown Trojans.
Do it.
Do I have to do it?
You have to do your little corny thing.
Touchdown Trojans.
Yeah. And a hello to Guff.
Hi, Guff.
Yeah. All right.
Also, we got a super chat from Justin.
Yeah,
but with no message. So
big cheers. We appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. We couldn't do this show without you guys. So many people were in the watch along earlier, which was a blast. We appreciate all you guys. Question from Demina in the chat: how much would you increase? Talking about the win-loss total. You said 8-4, right?
Well, I had USC at 7-5 going into the season.
Yeah.
I think 8-4 is perfectly. I would go as much as 9-3 because okay. So here's what I'm looking at. If 4 weeks in, we have a better picture of what USC's schedule actually is. I'm looking at Michigan, Notre Dame is beatable teams. I'm not saying USC is going to go on the road to South Bend and beat Notre Dame, but that's not a game that USC should be going into saying we're underdogs. We're definitely going to lose that game. There is now only one game on the schedule that I think USC should be looking at, that USC fans can look at and say, yes, USC is probably going to lose that game, and that's at Oregon. Yeah, because Autzen would be hard enough if Oregon,
any team in the country would be saying that. Yeah.
Yes. But going into the season, I was looking at Notre Dame and at Illinois and at Nebraska as like, well, those are like 50-50s at best. I mean, if I'm being very generous, those are 50-50s. Now I'm looking at like, no, why USC should not be going into Illinois and feeling like they can't possibly win that game.
Right.
They shouldn't be going to Notre Dame and feel like they can't possibly win that game. Same with Nebraska, and Michigan at home was always a game that USC should be looking at as a game that USC could win. So like, I'm now pushing it up to say like 9-3 is starting to feel like if USC can't be 9-3, then that is to me an underachievement. And I think there's a big difference for me between what ends up happening, like what the reality is, and what the level that it's almost like wins above replacement. Like if you replaced the coaching staff of this team with the same talent as this team, with a coaching staff from, pick a program that's in the top 10 this season, what would they do with this roster? And I would imagine that you would look at them and say, James Franklin would have this roster at 10-2. Not better than 10-2, but he'd have them at 10-2.
Right.
So
and
I hate James Franklin, by the way. So, like, when I say that, I mean...
As a coach, not as a person.
Well, I don't know.
The Vandy stuff did happen.
Yeah.
No, I would say that, like, I have I said 8-4, but in our preseason predictions episode, I have a hard time changing that in the sense that I think we all saw them going 4-0. Right? Like,
yes.
When the schedule came out, this was very much you have no business not going 4-0, especially if you think you've taken a step forward, right? And so they always, if this was a team that truly thought that they were taking a step forward, then 4-0 was the bare minimum. And they are here. So, like, we need to still evaluate when they continue to go down these next 4 games. In a lot of ways are going to define the season, right? It's something we've been saying on the podcast for years. Yep. Every single time there's a little stretch. These next 4 games are going to define the season. You get an Illinois team who got absolutely jiggle-bagged in Bloomington tonight by Indiana. 63-10? Was that the final?
Yes.
I think you would be absolutely mistaken if you thought you were going to go into Champaign and do the same thing to Indiana. In part because as much as I think that, yes, this is a USC team where I think on a neutral field against everybody but Oregon, they have at least a puncher's chance. If not, they should be favored against. I think Notre Dame, probably the only team outside of Oregon that I think would be favored over SC on a neutral field right now. Is that fair?
I agree. I'm very curious what this Illinois line will end up being, but no, I 100% agree.
But if it's on a neutral field,
yes,
SC
USC
is
would be
favored.
favored. Yes,
Absolutely.
100%.
And if that game was played, I said this on the watch along, if that game was played in Dallas at 3 p.m., I like SC's chances a lot against Illinois, especially given that their line was a sieve against Indiana, and that's one of the things that SC stresses. It's so good at
defensively,
in tackles for loss and all that stuff. The problem is, it's not in Dallas. It's not at 3 p.m. It's in Champaign. It's another road trip. It's another super early 9 a.m. kickoff. All these kind of things, and then you're going to have to say similar things about the trip to Notre Dame, right? Like, it's a place where SC hasn't won in well over a decade. At Nebraska is a game that I think that SC fans should feel really good about if it was on a neutral field. But again, these games are not played on neutral fields,
and
right?
if you watch the Michigan game at Nebraska today, like, that's a tough crowd to play in front of.
Yeah.
And they will be hype.
As much as I think that, like, if all these games were played in a COVID bubble, I think I would sit here and say that SC looks good enough to where 9-3 should be the lowest bar, and you should expect 10-2 and nothing else. Mm-hmm. As much as I would love to say that, I still need to see how these next 4 games go.
Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree. I'm just, like, at the point where it's judging this team, like this team going into Illinois and thinking that USC, it would be acceptable for USC to lose to this Illinois team now.
Yeah.
Is judging them based on 2024 standards and not, like, what USC should actually be judged on.
Well, this is the thing that we've talked about before is, like, are you judging, like, this is where it's so hard to, I think, judge teams. Are you judging teams on how they compare to 2012 Alabama, 1972 USC, and 2001 Miami? Because, like, if you are, well, then this team sucks ass.
Yeah.
Right? If you are comparing them to a playoff team, a team that could make the playoff, and you look at the teams that made the playoff last year, Tennessee, Indiana, ASU, like, I think SC is every bit as good as those teams right now,
or has the potential to.
Yeah, and
the big question that I have for this team is, like, what level of killer instinct does this team have? Because we've clearly seen now a team that has an offense that with some pretty good firepower, a defense that can be very disruptive, but is vulnerable to breakdowns that could very much ruin the season at some point. But like, I think right now you have to look at somebody like Jaden Mayaba, whose record at USC is now very good in terms of wins and losses.
Mm-hmm.
And start to wonder, like, okay, is this, even if USC plays, let's say USC goes to Illinois and plays just as sloppy defensively as they did in this game, is that still an automatic loss? Like, I mean, I don't know, because I'm starting to think that Jaden Mayaba might sort of have something.
No, I agree. And these things are, if there were games where at the beginning of the year I would have said it was 90-10, it's way more 55-45 at this point. And if SC plays really good against Illinois and Michigan, then maybe I turn it 55-45 in SC's direction. I don't know. Like, we're going to see how that goes in the next couple of weeks, right? Jay Mariano in the chat says, what about comparing this team to Lincoln Riley's first year in 2022? I think there's a lot of comparisons. I think this team is probably the closest to that in terms of extremely elite offense, a defense that, as it stands right now, is giving up big plays, but they're finding ways to make plays to not have the defense lose them games. They're also getting a lot of turnovers on defense, which helps out with all that kind of stuff. I also look at this, like, we've talked about, like, in terms of the metrics, SC has been pretty identical each of those 3 Riley years. I think this might be the team that looks the most like, SC was 16, 17, and 18 the last 3 years in FEI, right? This team looks like the most likely team to look like a 16, 17, 18 ranked team, whereas 2022, I think in a lot of ways, eye test in part looked better than that because of Caleb Williams. And the last 2 years looked worse than that because they would shoot themselves in the foot and lose games that they shouldn't. Well, this team looks like they're going to be more true to how good they should be, which is like a 9-3 type team.
Well, but that's my question. Like, I still have that question if that will be the case. Because we saw a team last year that, for all its faults, was still, like, the record didn't reflect the level of that team in the end. I mean, you are what your record says you are, but, take my words for what they mean. Like, that team should not have been 7-6 based on the level that they were able to achieve. This year's team, like, again, I'm looking at it, we still don't, there's so much we don't know about this team. Mm-hmm. The comparison to 2022 is tough because let's just start from a base level. Mayava is not Caleb Williams.
Right.
But how close to Caleb Williams can he get, recognizing that Lincoln Riley, like, this is the thing, like, last year sort of upset our assumptions about what a Lincoln Riley quarterback will always, like, what the floor of a Lincoln Riley quarterback is. Yeah. But again, we go back to, if you take 2024 out of the mix, Lincoln Riley quarterbacks from, over the course of a decade have all been at a certain level. And maybe none of them were as good, reached like the extreme heights for me of like a Caleb Williams. Mm-hmm. But even the worst of them was still like Spencer Rattler averaging 350 yards a game and, doing all of these things.
Right.
So if Mayava doesn't need to be Caleb Williams in order for him to have this offense humming at a that is comparable to 2022.
We had talked about it then. Caleb Williams' production was very good, but it also did not compare to what Jalen Hurts did at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
What Baker Mayfield did at Oklahoma in terms of just sheer production, sheer numbers, right? Caleb Williams was a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts was at Oklahoma, but Caleb Williams didn't have the passer rating to match that, right?
Yeah.
And so, yes, I think that, do I think that Jade Mayava is ever going to be as good as Caleb Williams? No, because Caleb Williams is an absolute unicorn, right? But I absolutely think he can get into that realm of production.
When I say,
and that's all you like that's
when I say Caleb Williams, though, it's less about like Caleb Williams, the level of just unicorn.
It's the production you're talking about.
No, it's not even the production. It's about
reliability.
The way that Caleb Williams put USC on his back and won football games.
Yeah.
And I think that was just the big difference is Caleb, with a few rare exceptions, like Caleb found a way to win. Mm-hmm. He found ways to win. He always came up with those plays that just got the job done. And I think we saw a little bit of that from Mayava today. USC's in the greatest danger they've been in this game in the third in the fourth quarter. USC's facing a third down. The pass rush comes. Mayava looks dead in the water, and then he magics his way into a first down conversion. Like, I'm not saying it was like Caleb Williams level playmaking, but it had a touch of when USC needed Mayava to make the miracle play or to will himself to will USC beyond the line. Like he got it done. He did that thing.
Right.
That's sort of the question that I have is like, can Mayava keep that up? Can USC end up in a position where they're playing Illinois and the game is close and the defense is questionable maybe, and the offense is a little more muted because they're on the road, but then in the fourth quarter, Mayava makes the plays that wins USC the game, and it sort of doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if that game is 29-25, so long as it's a win. A win is a win when you're going on the road to Illinois. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I'm crunching some numbers really quickly. So September for Caleb Williams in 2022, Again, this is a September in which he played Rice, Stanford, Fresno State, and Oregon State, which I think it's not a 1-for-1, but it's not worlds different than what SC has played so far, right? In September in 2022, Caleb Williams completed 65.6% of his passes for 1,054 yards, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions, a passer rating of 162.5. Jade Mayava, through 4 games, he is 68 of 96, which is, what's 68 of 96? Well, I mean, that's basically like 70%, 70.8%, right? For 1,223 yards, 9 touchdowns, and no interceptions for a passer rating of 208.7. So, is he as good as Caleb Williams? No. Is he producing what Caleb Williams produced? Yes. And if you do that, and if you continue to do that, and if you continue to not make the turnover back-breaking plays that you made a year ago, if you're Jade Mayava, you're putting SC in a spot to really sort of continue to succeed. Because here's the other comparison to last year, right? Last year, whether it was Mayava or Miller Moss, and we saw this multiple times with Miller Moss, that third quarter goes to hell with that penalty drive. Then you have the fumble. The next drive had a very good chance of being a pick 6 or a 3-and-out because of whatever, right? And that did not happen. Mayava and the running game and all that stuff, sort of mowed right through it. So,
yeah. So I mean, again, that's the positive thing from this game, and I think I like the way that Riley is calling the run plays at this point, the distribution between Wayman Jordan and Eli Sanders. Yeah. The distribution to the tight ends has been really encouraging in terms of the importance of that they're using it. I think that the offensive line is doing far better than I expected them to. Their bigger tests are coming up, but they are still sort of holding the line enough to make this offense functional. So there's a lot to like about this team. And there's a lot to like about this win. I just wish I wish this game had gone more smoothly, so that I wouldn't have this sort of nagging doubt in my head about okay, so USC managed to pull out the win here, but what happens the next time?
Well, I think this is the frustrating part, is that this should have been a game where we're hopping on the Carcast and we're like, okay, SC wins 45-13.
And we're talking about Wayman Jordan, and we're talking about Eli Sanders and Mekhi Lemon and how great they are, and we're talking about King Miller breaking his patented 30-yard touchdown run in the waning in the fourth quarter, and we're talking about Hassan Longstreet getting some playing time and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
and it was headed that way, but it wasn't. And I think the frustrating thing for SC is the polls don't matter, but I think that it looks good on paper for people to wake up tomorrow morning, go to their sports app of choice, open it up, and see that the game was 45-13 versus 45-31.
Yeah.
And, I think SC played well enough for most of the game to win this 45-13. But the bad parts were really bad. The little brief moments, the 2 drives, the play at the end, which, by the way, FEI is not going to count that last touchdown. Garbage time. It was garbage time. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
Either way, I'm just I'm at the point where the defense was supposed to have been
better,
and the defense is not better, and that's
the frustrating part. The defense,
they're better in a lot of ways.
The defensive line is significantly better.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're significantly better. It's the secondary, and the secondary is taking a step back, and we thought the secondary was going to be the best part of this defense.
Yeah.
There are a lot of veteran players, even the ones who have come in as transfers. Bishop Fitzgerald, who has 3 interceptions through 4 games, and it's been every bit as an impact player in the secondary. And Kamara Ramsey, we were thinking as an All-American type guy. he moves over the nickel back and he's not nearly as effective as he was. Mm-hmm. You have the injuries at corner. You're down Prophet Brown. You're down Chasen Johnson. You're down Alex Graham. And in a lot of ways, I think the secondary can get grace because of that. But the other part about it is there's just been too many breakdowns, and some of them look like coverage choices. And it's hard to decipher exactly what went down, and we don't know what the call was. And we're never going to know what the call was. We're not going to get all the details on those kind of things. Who was at fault? Was it the play call? Was it a guy? Was it miscommunication? Either way, if it was miscommunication or if it was a guy just getting beat, it still all comes down to coaching when this thing happens, in 4 straight games at some point, right? Mm-hmm. So it's complicated. Yeah, the secondary should have been the part that you felt really good about, but it's not. But the other parts are looking good, right?
Yeah, I mean the pass rush is looking as good as it's looked in years, to be honest. Yeah. I'm really encouraged by that, and I think that that pass rush is why Aiden Childs' stat line is so weird.
Yeah,
12 of 21. But for 212 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's it's a weird stat line. Mm-hmm. And it is that thing where, Aiden Childs is a good quarterback. So give him credit for being able to generate the offense that he was able to generate. But it also felt like USC was, offering him opportunities on a handful of plays that he was able to take, and that handful of plays results in 31 points.
Yeah.
That's not going to win football games if that's how your offense is operating.
Yeah. Braylon Shelby, 1.5 sacks tonight, puts him at 3.5 for the season, which surpasses what he had last year, which was 3. So there you go.
Well, USC is up to 16 sacks on the season.
It was 2 tonight.
2 tonight. So they had 14 before. They have 16 now, which means they are 5 sacks away from matching last year's total.
Yeah. Paul in the chat says, "Why was Kamari Ramsey moved?" Alicia, is it Kamari Ramsey? Is he moved mostly because it's a strategic thing, or because it's an injury thing, or because column A, column B?
My read on it is that if Prophet Brown had not gotten injured in fall camp, that Brown would be the nickel and that Ramsey would be the safety alongside Bishop Fitzgerald. Yeah. And we would be seeing Christian Pierce being subbed in as sort of the third guy.
Yeah.
But because Prophet Brown got injured, and then the presumptive replacement, Alex Graham, the freshman, also ended up being injured, then it became a question of, okay, so what is the best 5 that we can have on the field in terms of the secondary? And the determining factor there is pretty clearly, to me, based on the performance of the corners at large, is that they were better off having a third safety on the field than a third corner. So then Christian Pierce can play safety, but Kamari Ramsey's skill set is probably of the guys they could have put out, between Bishop Fitzgerald and Christian Pierce. Kamari Ramsey is the one that makes sense to play nickel if you needed him to. Is that his best position? Absolutely not. Is it sort of neutralizing his game-breaking ability? Absolutely. But I guess the question is, can USC realistically look at it and function with Bishop Fitzgerald, Kamari Ramsey, Marcellus Williams, DeCarlos Nicholson, and Braylon Conley or DJ Harvey?
Yeah,
the third.
You need to see more out of DJ Harvey. He was someone who came Harvey with a lot of high expectations. Was really, really good at San Jose State. He was at Virginia Tech before that. High pedigree in terms of him as a prospect. So what can SC get out of him?
The good news is
you need to see more.
And we don't know the extent of Prophet Brown's injury because they just don't tell us these things. But the way that they were talking about that injury in fall camp was that it should be, the kind of thing where he could maybe be back mid-season. So
yeah, and I think it helps. You got 2 bye weeks.
Yeah.
In October.
So, maybe it's not so far from Brown being back on the field and then us getting to see a more true look of what the secondary could be in terms of Kamari Ramsey. But
if you could get him going into November, starting with the Nebraska game, I think that would be big. The problem is we talked about the next 4 games. Well, there's 3 games. The next 4 games are going to decide the season, right? There's 3 games before the Nebraska game.
Yeah.
But the Nebraska game is a long time away from now, but it's not in terms of the number of games because there's 2 bye weeks. So there is time there. Alicia, we are 55 minutes into this podcast, and I'm very upset that we have gone this far without talking about perhaps the player of the game, Jakeem Stewart.
Yes.
Probably one of the best 3 tackle performances I've ever seen. 3 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. One of them, he just completely blows up a play in the backfield. He's at the mesh point, which was incredible. Another one, he comes in completely unblocked.
I still don't understand how he's untouched on so many of these plays.
Yeah.
He's so quick off the line. This was a coming out party for Jakeem Stewart. It felt like they trusted him a lot more to be out there, and he earned every snap that he got. This was the Jakeem Stewart that we were sort of hyped about,
Yes.
And not that he didn't have impressive moments in his first couple of games, but this was the game breaking. This was the absolute beast on the inside kind of guy that we're seeing that we were promised, and
he looked like 20-year-old Jakeem Stewart.
Yes, this is a true freshman.
17 or is he 18
he's like
now? Whatever
17.
it
is. He reclassified, I think.
Yeah.
So it's absurd how good he is at this stage. You can sort of see. We were talking in the watch along, what the best freshman sort of prospect looking since who, and he's given me Leonard Williams vibes, and I don't say that lightly. Obviously,
you're talking about freshman impacts. It's those 3 seasons, 12, 13, 14. 12, you had Leonard Williams. 13, you had Sua. 14, you had Adoree Jackson. Yeah. All of them have great freshman years, in part because we remember that they had great sophomore and junior seasons too.
Yes.
And so,
But Leonard Williams stands out there.
12 or 13 tackles for loss as a freshman.
He was incredible as a freshman.
Yeah. He was more of an end as a freshman.
Yes.
And then he became more of a
tackle.
Yeah, he was a defensive end in the 4-2 in the 4-3 front that SC had in Monty Kiffin's Tampa 2 defense in 2012, but then Clancy Pendergast came in, brought an odd man front, and suddenly he was a 5 technique defensive tackle who's a defensive end, but Yeah.
All those weird things. But Jakeem Stewart looks just like an absolute monster game breaker who you just have to expect will continue to get better. And that's the scary thing. The really, really scary thing for opposing teams is that this is not fully formed Jakeem Stewart. This is baby Jakeem Stewart, and he's already looking like just a monster that can get into the backfield at will. So that was really, really fun to see. I also want to call attention. I don't know if you saw, Michael, we have a super chat we haven't addressed.
Did we get another one?
Yes.
I missed it? I'm sorry.
From Big Mike T.
I'm sorry.
Big Mike says, as bad as our secondary has been, we did hold Marsh, a projected day 1 draft pick, to 2 catches for 28 yards.
Yeah, so, he came in questionable. But 2 catches for 28 yards. It was Mari Kelly that had the big night for Michigan State, 133 yards on 6 catches. Of course, 75 yards of it was on the play with 2 minutes to go in the game. But Marsh was a non-factor. Mekhi Frazier looked all right at times at running back.
Yeah, it's hard to tell with Marsh being that he's obviously coming back from injury. We don't know how, what level of was he 100%?
Mm-hmm. 5 targets, 2 catches.
Yeah, but he definitely wasn't like a he obviously didn't have a big game, and I think DeCarlos Nicholson was on him most of the time, but you could correct me on that. So like, good on Nicholson there.
Was the PI? Was that Marsh?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. But
yeah.
SC held him in check. Lamont in the chat says, how much of a hit is Ramsey's draft stock dropping by him being moved to nickel? Do you think it will be as bad as Taylor Mays? Although I think they just hated on Mays. I don't think it will be as bad as Taylor Mays, because I don't think Kamari Ramsey was valued nationally as much as we have valued Kamari Ramsey locally. I thought going into the season, he was absolutely an All-American candidate, and he should have been on like preseason All-American type lists and stuff like that. And he didn't get nearly as much love as I thought he could have been. And anytime you looked up like draft stuff, it was like, oh, he's a day 2 guy. And so I don't think that if he falls from day 2 to day 3, that is not as big of a fall as Taylor Mays, who I think at one point people thought was going to go like top 10.
Yeah.
Especially because he was just physically gifted, like incredibly gifted. Yeah.
Well, I think it's less of a fall and more of a sort of putting a ceiling on him, because I do think if he was playing safety that he would be raising his stock, where right now he's kind of anonymous in this defense, and that's a shame because he is too good of a player to be anonymous.
Yeah, he's such a great player. Randy asked earlier, do you think if when Prophet Brown and Alex Graham come back, they'll play corner rather than nickel? We sort of touched on this, but like I think it would be ideally, probably, like that way if you can get Kamari Ramsey back at safety, for the last month of the season or whatever.
I expect if Prophet Brown is back, I expect him to be playing nickel.
Yeah, that would be a big coup for the Trojans going forward. All right. It's late. It's 1:12 Pacific time. We still have 232 people in watching us, which is crazy. You guys are absolute sickos. It's late. Why aren't you watching TikTok or something? I don't know. But I want to run down some other scores. We talked about Indiana beating up on Illinois, an absolute dominant performance, a true jiggle bagging, if you will. Other games that were interesting: Michigan beats Nebraska by a score of 30-27. Purdue scored 30 in South Bend against Notre Dame. They gave up 56, but they scored 30. Like, if you're Purdue, like that's not terrible.
That game had another like 3-hour long rain delay with like a minute left in the second quarter.
Yeah. What is it with the state of Indiana?
It's just a weird state. So yeah, that game was. I thought Purdue was sort of hanging in there for a little bit, and then made it kind of interesting, kind of like Michigan State, and then Notre Dame pulled away. So I don't know how much I'll read into that particular.
Oh my God! I just looked up the Cal score.
Oh,
did you see this?
No.
Cal was 3-0 and going on the road to San Diego State. You know what the final score was?
I'm gonna guess it was bad for Cal.
34-0.
Yikes, Cal. Yikes.
Is this a misprint? JKS 2 picks.
Yeah, that'll do it. His God. QBR was 17.4. Yeesh. Well, again, this is what happens. Like an off day from your quarterback, and suddenly, like, oh no, you're bad.
Let's whip around the Big Ten. Oregon wins the Civil War 41-7 over Oregon State. I feel bad for Oregon State. It's a sad place for them to be at. They deserve better. Maryland's 27-10 over Wisconsin on the road in Madison.
Yeah, Luke Fickell's in trouble.
Yeah, but that's a good showing for Maryland. They're 4-0.
Yeah. They found their quarterback.
Washington wins the Apple Cup on the road, 59-24 over Wazoo. They had a 28-0 fourth quarter in that game. Yikes, to really blow it on and add insult to injury. Any other games worth of note that you wanted to bring up, by the way?
Not really. When my work shift finished, I decided to grab a nap so that I would be capable of being here at 1:15. And when I did so, Miami looked like they were about to jiggle bag Florida. And then when I came back, it was like 13-7 Miami over Florida in like the fourth quarter. And I was, So Miami ended up pulling away to win 26-7, but I still don't know what happened there.
Looks like ASU pulled it out against Baylor.
They last second
27-24.
Yeah.
Fresno State over Hawaii. Good for Matt Entz. He's 4-1.
Hey.
That's good for them. I think their only loss was week 1 when they played Kansas. The Kansas
Yes.
they lost to?
Yeah,
They lost 31-7 to Kansas, but they've beaten Georgia Southern, Oregon State, Southern, FCS Southern, and Hawaii back to back.
Mm-hmm.
Good on the Dogs. Boise State finally gets a notable win for them over Air Force. I don't know if that's notable, but yeah. All right.
We got a super chat.
Wrap this thing up with a super chat. Jay Mariano says, just want to say I appreciate your work. Being on the other side of the world and watching SC games by myself most of the time, I want to say thanks. Well, we want to say thanks to you. Loso in the chat says, I'm watching in Germany. Jay Mariano's on the other side of the world. Yeah, like you guys, absolute sickos in the best way possible. Yeah.
Rama Murdy says the dogs have been quiet, so they must be sleeping. Can confirm. Not only is Badger sleeping, but Badger is dreaming. Badger's kicking his legs.
Which can be really annoying when you're laying in bed and you just start getting kicked at 3 a.m.
Yeah, Badger's definitely a.
But he's cute when he does it.
He is.
Yeah. No, the dogs were brutal in the first half of the game of the watch along. Drove me nuts, but I say the dogs. It's just Badger.
Yeah.
Jessie is a freaking saint.
Yeah.
Quiet as a pea. There she is over there. Jessie doesn't even look our way. She hates us. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. We appreciate you guys. We'll be back Monday, same time, 4 o'clock Pacific time. In the show notes, in the doobly-doo, all of that stuff. The link to the RoT meter is there. Let's click this really quick. Alicia, the RoT meter was under 7 last time. It was like 6.7. Do you think that will be going up or down this week?
I'm going to guess down based on some of the comments that we've seen.
At one point in the watch along, there was a lot of sky is falling.
There was a lot of sky is falling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still at a solid 7. I'm not
fair.
moving it up or down.
I will say I feel better about SC going into Champaign.
Yes.
But
it's still 9 a.m. So.
Yeah, come back Wednesday to see if we actually predict SC to win that game, because I just want to yell it from the mountaintops with a giant megaphone. Just because Indiana lost by 53 points on the road to Illinois lost it by 53 points on the road to Indiana, do not expect that to happen next week, because, SC should win on a neutral field against them, given what we know from this season.
Completely different game.
It's a completely different game. It's at 9 a.m. on the road, all those kind of things. You would absolutely hope that SC goes there, and if you get a 31-10 win next week, you would bump up the RoT meter a little bit. But we got to see that to happen. Lamont says, any update on Jacoby? Yeah, he's sounds like he's going to be out a few weeks. So there you go. All right. Until then, we'll see you. We'll see you on Monday.
See ya.
See you guys. See ya.